This is the real story behind Peter Pan, and it's terrifying. In the late 1800s, in a quiet castle town in Cornwall, England, a disturbing rumor began to spread. Children were disappearing, slipping from their beds in the night without a trace. Whispers pointed to a strange boy named Peter. Peter wasn't ordinary. He was a homeless orphan, about 10 years old, yet no one had ever seen him grow. He wandered the streets barefoot in the winter but never shivered. He never begged for food, never seemed hungry, and carried a strange charm that made other children follow him without question. One afternoon he met a girl named Gretchen and her two brothers, Randy and Skip. Peter told them about a secret party where everyone wore white clothes, a party only special children could attend. That night, the three siblings vanished, just like the others. The townspeople whispered, "The boy who never grew up is taking them." But one man wasn't willing to accept rumors. Detective Alonzo Jenkins arrived determined to find the truth. After weeks of searching, he spotted Peter wandering toward the woods and followed him. The trail led to an abandoned stone church at the edge of town, a place long avoided. Inside, under the moonlight, Peter's young face began to twist, stretch, age. Within seconds, he transformed into a tall, skeletal man with hollow eyes and a grin that didn't move right. Jenkins froze as the creature leaned close and whispered, "Don't worry, I only take the young. The old are useless to me." Jenkins ran for help. Officers flooded the forest, but when they returned, the creature was gone, and what they found in the church was far more horrifying than the rumors.
What if I told you the Matrix was right when it said 1999 was the peak of human civilization? Think about it. At the end of the 20th century, we had the perfect mix. Technology was exciting but not invasive. The internet was a tool, not a cage, and we still valued face-to-face connections. In the movie, they called it living in a dream world, maybe because we believed everything they told us. Civilization was living in a bubble, shielded from the ugly truths of the system. They also said, at some point in the early 21st century, all of mankind was united in celebration. We marveled at our own magnificence as we gave birth to AI. Prophetic, isn't it? Because right now we're doing just that, celebrating AI, letting it write, create, and even think for us. But here's the scary part. The more it does, the less we do. Just like they said, the moment AI started thinking for us, it stopped being our civilization and started being theirs. And here's the kicker: evolution, Morpheus, evolution. And that line wasn't just about machines getting smarter. It's about humanity giving up control, letting the systems we created define what evolution even means. We've gone from shaping the world to being shaped by it. So where is this all heading? A society where algorithms make all the big decisions, where we're plugged into screens 24/7, living in curated realities. It's what they warned us about, but we don't even see it because we're too busy marveling at how convenient everything's become. The Matrix didn't just predict the future, it showed us the path we were already on. And the question is, do we keep walking it, or do we finally wake up? I'm going to go ahead and say this is just a joke for entertainment purposes.
This is the true story behind Snow White and its pure nightmare. In November 1986, the Mercer family moved into an old Victorian house in Eldon Falls, Maine. While exploring the basement, Mrs. Mercer found an antique trunk. Inside were a black funeral dress, a cracked porcelain mask, and 7 glass jars, each containing a perfectly preserved red apple floating in dark liquid. That night, their 9-year-old daughter Emily said she saw a lady with black hair standing at the foot of her bed. The lady whispered, "Don't eat the red ones, they're for me." Over the next week, Emily's behavior changed. She stopped eating meals, only staring at the kitchen fruit bowl. Her skin grew pale, her lips dark. One stormy night, Mr. Mercer woke to the sound of chewing coming from Emily's room. When he opened the door, she was sitting on the floor, biting into one of the apples from the basement. A woman in the black dress crouched behind her, long hair hanging over Emily's face, guiding her hands. Mr. Mercer turned on the light. Emily was alone, but the apple lay on the floor, and inside it, he swore he saw human teeth marks, too large to be hers.
There's a theory that the world already ended, and it actually happens every Tuesday at 4:12 a.m. And the creepy part? Millions of people swear they felt it. It's called the Tuesday Reset Theory, and once you hear this, you'll start noticing it too. The idea is simple. but terrifying. Every Tuesday morning at exactly 4:12 a.m., reality shuts down. Not metaphorically, not spiritually, literally. Everything, time, consciousness, even physical laws, rewind just enough to keep the simulation stable. You don't feel it because you're not supposed to, but some people wake up early enough to catch the glitch. Like the guy who said he woke up at 4:10 and watched the moon jump a few inches to the left, instantly. Or the woman who said her entire house made a low humming sound right before everything went silent, like someone hit the mute button on the universe. And here's the weirdest part. People all over the world report the same thing on Tuesdays. Birds go quiet, clocks freeze for exactly 1 second, and the air feels thick, like it's holding its breath. Researchers who've looked into it noticed something even stranger. Global data spikes on Tuesday mornings. Servers reboot, security cameras glitch, GPS systems drift by a few feet. Nobody has an explanation, but it always happens around 4:12 a.m. So pretty much the world ends every Tuesday, but the simulation reloads us into the closest stable version of reality. That's why things fell off lately. That's why people remember different details. That's why nothing feels the same as it did a few years ago. Because technically, we're not in the same world we started in. As always, stay weird.
If NASA really went to the moon, you can't convince me that this is how they came back home. Because this is how we launched to outer space here on Earth. Multi-billion-dollar launch pads and support towers, massive fuel tanks, months of prep work, huge rocket explosion with a blazing trail of molten rocket fuel, possibly the most impressive feat of modern human engineering that anyone could possibly experience. But on the moon, a tiny metal cabin covered in tinfoil with skinny metal legs sitting on an uneven, dusty surface, just pops away and detaches, flying all the way up into orbit just like that. Like, listen, I understand the moon has only 1/6 of Earth's gravitational pull, and therefore requires much less force to reach escape velocity, the speed required to enter into a planet or moon's orbit. But something about this liftoff just doesn't look right. No blast crater, no scorch marks, no sustained burn time, no epic powerful rocket launch, just a quick spark and it flies straight up into the stratosphere, or the moonosphere, or whatever. I just have a hard time believing that 1/6 of Earth's gravity goes from a monumental rocket eruption like this to a simple pop and detach like that. And then after effortlessly breaking free from the moon's gravity, this lunar lander reunited with a craft that was orbiting the moon, which just clicked back together like IKEA furniture and then peacefully glided everyone back home with a splashdown in the ocean. Don't get me wrong, I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I do believe we went to the moon. I could be wrong though. There is a lot of sketchy business that went down with the moon landings, but overall I feel like the evidence in support of them slightly outweighs the evidence against it. Just my opinion, but something about this return back to Earth moon launch just doesn't sit right with me. This is one of those videos that I'm almost positive NASA faked just to flex their technical superiority to the world, most notably to the Soviets, who they were in a space race with at the time to intimidate them with their flight supremacy. Expecting to air this once or twice on TV, never to be seen or closely examined by people on a mass scale ever again. Not anticipating that humans would be sharing and inspecting this footage 50 years later on the internet. But apparently NASA is sending people back to the lunar surface with Artemis 3, set to launch sometime in mid-2027 but is likely to see delays, with Artemis 2 planned for the first quarter of 2026, which will see 4 astronauts sent to orbit around the moon and then circle back home to Earth over the course of 10 days. The first manned mission to the vicinity of the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972, which is exactly where this footage is supposedly from. And trust me, the tinfoil hats are going to be watching real close on this next one. I think it's high time we get an HD remake of this moon launch. Please make sure to pack your 4K cameras this time.
These are the most insane outer space discoveries of 2025. Those 2 astronauts that spent way longer in space than they were supposed to because their spacecraft malfunctioned switched to a new mission and returned home safely on a SpaceX capsule. After a supermassive black hole ripped apart an absolutely massive star, scientists saw the largest black hole flare ever, 30 times brighter than any we've ever seen before. Scientists tracked a newly discovered asteroid the size of a 15-story building building called 2024 YR4 and determined that it has about a 4% chance of impacting the moon in 2032. The James Webb Space Telescope discovered its first planet by directly imaging it. JWST also looked at Uranus and discovered a new moon that nobody had ever seen before. The new Euclid Space Telescope, which can go much faster and look at an area more than 100 times JWST, saw 26 million galaxies in 1 week. The Mars Perseverance rover found weird markings on a rock on Mars. Scientists think that this could have been caused by ancient microbial life. This is probably the best evidence we've ever had for life outside of Earth. Currently traveling through our solar system is the third interstellar object to ever be discovered here. 3I Atlas has some incredibly cool properties that initially sparked some alien rumors, but seems to just be a really fascinating interstellar comet. And the biggest space news of the year, we got the first data from the new Vera Rubin Observatory. Using the largest digital camera ever built, in only 10 hours, it discovered over 2,000 asteroids in our solar system, and 7 of them were near Earth. In one night, it saw 10 million galaxies, and over the next 10 years, it will image the entire southern sky, which will eventually create an ultra-wide, ultra-high definition time-lapse of space. Technology is only getting better, so I can't wait to see what 2026 brings.
This is a 1647 moon map. It's crazy. Wait till you see how they have overlaid the Earth on this. I took this actual page out of the moon map book, which I go over the entire book in my subscription channel. You got to check it out, but let's just go ahead and get started. So Mount Sinai, which you see right here. Check this out. By the way, this is what I do. I dive into old maps, and when I found this map book, I just went off. I've probably been playing around with this map for the whole book, actually, for about, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours. Some of the stuff I found in there, woo! I'm not going to get into it here, but dates that I found that confirm dates that we talk about on my channel, you should check it out. It's crazy. Anyways, that Mount Sinai area I was talking about, that's where the button is at, okay? The button, I'm putting up a little picture of the moon, but that little button area, that's where Mount Sinai is. They have on the previous page, which I show in the full, I get like a 10-15 minute video on it, where I went page by page by page, so you could really see everything. But it's just so neat. Like, and it also in the book, it details out all the different craters. Like, they had details. But this is an overlay. This is another big crater up there where Mount Etna's showing for Sicily. And then there's the island of Sicily, right? And then you have the Mediterranean all around that. It's really interesting. And then I would say if we're going up here, right, we got the Alps right here. You got Italy there, so we'd go across over here. Let's see what we got going down into here. You got the Egypt area right here, so it would come into there. Very interesting. Here's Arabia. Comment, let me know what you think. Obviously, hit me up in the comments if you want a link to this map. I'll shoot you a link to it. Check out my subscription where I go into some super detail on this thing. Actually, I had to do 2 videos, and I'm doing a 3rd on it. And then they show a lot about Hyperborea up here. You have the Hyperborea Sea, you got the Hyperborea region. Just really interesting on how they overlaid everything. Then you got some of the stuff here where they talk about, you know, the map key. And then on this side over here, you got that. And you got that date right there. Yeah, that date right there. We will talk a lot more about that in my subscription channel. Comment, let me know what you think. Comment if you got questions, you got comments, you see something on here pretty crazy too. Look, Mount Olympus is right there. Just thought it was so neat. Let's see what mountains they show here. Very neat. Anyways, more to come. I'm finding more of this stuff as we go along. And as always, thank you so much for the support. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next time.
Why would they spend a modern equivalent of $250 billion to make this rocket that flies to the moon on the very first attempt and then destroy it? Listen to NASA saying they destroy the technology.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
So, General, why was that technology destroyed? Why was it destroyed?
Why do you know why, or have any idea why the technology was destroyed by NASA?
I don't know that the technology was destroyed.
Okay,
we
so
built.
So NASA
wait a
has
minute.
not his line.
Hold on, Bart.
Okay,
Bart, you gotta let him finish his thought.
Yeah. We flew to the moon. Okay. The program was successful. We did 6 landings on the moon. Okay. We used technology that was designed by Marshall Space Flight Center called a Saturn V rocket. Was the biggest rocket so far ever launched to get us to the moon. Okay. So we went to the moon. Took 3 days to get there. We orbited the moon for a day to get everything correct. Generally, it went that way for all of the 6 landings on the moon. And so we got to the moon. We manned the spacecraft. We had, in our flight, we had a delay because of the command module had a problem with the main engine. And Mission Control had to verify that they could get it fixed or work around it. So anyway, we were late landing on Apollo 16 because of this problem. And we landed in the place we were supposed to land at Descartes Highlands. We spent 72 hours on the moon. We brought back 200 pounds of moon rocks or thereabouts. Maybe not that much. I forgot exactly.
But the question about the technology being destroyed, you're not aware of the technology being destroyed or gone missing from all the Apollo programs.
Okay, so that NASA astronaut is lying that the technology was destroyed.
No, he said he wasn't aware of it.
Okay, well, according to NASA, a modern-day astronaut, he said that a couple of years ago, that all the Apollo technology was destroyed. I interviewed Eugene Krantz. He told me all the telemetry data was destroyed. All the original videotapes were destroyed. Right before they were to be transferred to HD. So,
but we still have the original film.
No,
the 16 millimeter film is still in Houston at the Johnson Space Center.
Oh, that I don't know. The videotape is what they intentionally
the
destroyed.
videotape of the projection that was given.
Right, you're talking about the camera-mounted lunar module that took one picture.
All of the film that was shot on all the emissions on all of the missions is still in its original format in the film reels in that
but
Johnson
majority
Space Center.
of the video images is videotape,
right?
And that was intentionally destroyed.
But those were just copies of the film, right?
No, these are the originals. I talked to Eugene Krantz. He said the original videotapes were accidentally recorded over, and the only machine on Earth that could play it back was intentionally disassembled.
Okay, I'm confused.
So that even if they're found, they couldn't be played.
I'm confused.
All the telemetry data, where the rocket really was. So back to the destroy.
1 second. Can I ask a question?
Well, either this guy is lying, right? Why would a NASA astronaut lie? Has there ever been a time, and this is another proof, has there ever been a time in the history of the world that someone developed a new technology, broke the sound barrier, split the atom, and then destroyed the technology afterwards? It's never happened. It's never happened. They destroyed it to cover their tracks, because I went scuba diving, and to have an hour's worth of air, it takes 2 tanks this big and that big around. That would be 16 tanks of air you would have to have on your back on the moon. And then to allegedly get the lunar module down to 72 degrees on inside, for 3 days against 250 degrees outside on a bank of essentially car batteries. It can't be done. That's why they destroyed all the technology, because it could be proved later that the rocket didn't have enough fuel to leave Earth orbit, which we have proof of as well. I have von Braun's own quote, which we'll read, that says one rocket will never go to the moon without multiple fueling, and we'll show that from von Braun as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What does that got to do with our discussion?
Well, he asked what proof do we have that they didn't go to the moon? And there's a lot of proof that you didn't go to the moon.
How about the proof that we did go to the moon?
Well, we already heard all of that. 400,000 people, that's been